Y&R Spoilers Wednesday, June 4th reveal that Lily's anger may force Dumas to reveal his identity. The atmosphere at society that night seemed more tense than usual. While Audra Charles sat with Nate Hastings at a table by the window, she had no idea that she was about to face a series of unexpected surprises. From the moment Lily Winters appeared, the door opened a new wind, but the biggest surprise was when Damian Kane walked beside her, looking intimate and in sync, rarely seen between two people who were once just colleagues working together. Nate, who is sensitive to every change in the office environment and in private, quickly realized the strange atmosphere. He looked at Lily and then glanced at Damian, as if to ask the real purpose of this meeting. "Is this a business meeting, or are you two enjoying a relaxing evening?" Nate's half-joking question made the whole table laugh, but it also revealed a hidden tension. Lily gently replied, not avoiding it but actively leading Damian into the center of the conversation, showing that she wanted to keep the initiative in everything that was about to happen. Dinner had just begun, but the unspoken words had created an undercurrent in every look, every gesture. Suddenly, Damian received a call. His face darkened momentarily when he heard the cold words from Dumas' assistant. In just a split second, Damian knew that he had been fired, without a word of warning, without a single sign of warning. He looked up, calmly announcing the decision to the group, his eyes shining with an unbelievable calmness, as if he had predicted everything. However, deep in Damian's mind, a quiet storm was brewing. Months of dedication and building were now ended by a short, cold call. Audra, Nate, and especially Lily were all surprised, but Lily was the first to speak up. She was worried that Dumas might have discovered the plot to protect Winters' enterprises from hidden manipulation, and that Damian's dismissal was not only a personal punishment but also a warning to the entire Winters team. Although Damian tried to reassure her, saying that he had planned to retreat beforehand, Lily still felt the danger looming, because with Dumas, every action contained deep and unpredictable purposes. The atmosphere at the table became serious. Lily took the initiative to propose that the upcoming party, where Dumas would appear as the guest of honor, would be her last chance to directly confront and interrogate Dumas about his true motives towards Winters. She made no secret of her intention to use all her skills to see through Dumas' every move. If she failed, Winters might lose its inherent position, or even be completely manipulated from within. On Damian's side, in addition to his own unexpected unemployment, he also realized another consequence. Holden Novak, his close associate, was also caught up in this vortex. Holden was one of the outstanding young talents, who had been mentored by Damian, and losing his job also meant that he could lose his direction, even easily be drawn to Dumas or other competitors. Damian secretly wondered if it was his responsibility to protect, or at least guide Holden to find a new direction, to prevent him from falling into the vortex of power and calculation that surrounded Winters. The story became more complicated when Damian, in the midst of confusion, realized that he was faced with a difficult choice. He realized that Audra might be planning to recruit more staff for Vibrante, a rapidly expanding company, constantly looking for experienced and potential characters. Not missing the opportunity, Damian asked Audra directly about this possibility, hoping to nominate Holden as a guarantee for his future. Audra was initially surprised, clearly not thinking about this. Her confusion was evident in every look, every word, as she gave a series of reasonable reasons to delay or reject the idea of recruiting new personnel at this time. However, Damian was not discouraged. Instead, he cleverly emphasized Holden's excellent role, both as a word of encouragement for him and as a way to arouse the interest of Audra, who was a master at recognizing talent. The meal continued with a mixture of work and personal concerns, but each of them kept their own concerns. Nate, though calm on the surface, was actually pondering the line between work and emotion. He realized that, amid all the change and uncertainty, he was also facing important questions about his relationship with Audra, his role at Newman, and the true meaning of what he was pursuing. Audra, strong and sharp by nature, was a little confused as she realized the changes in her old group, as well as the pressure that was mounting on her. She knew that if Winters had an accident, the market would fluctuate greatly, and Vibrante would inevitably be caught up in that vortex. Besides, the idea of hiring Holden, a talented but also ambitious employee, made her think carefully. Audra is not only worried about Vibrante's position, but also feels the risk of internal rift if she chooses the wrong person for her team. Lily, after all, is still steadfast in her goal of protecting Winters. She tells herself that she cannot let people like Dumas control the fate of the company that generations have worked hard to build. The pressure on Lily's shoulders is increasing, especially when she knows that just one mistake can ruin everything from her personal reputation to the future of the Winters family. Damian, despite his tough stance on the decision to fire him, still cannot help but feel lost. He suddenly realizes that everything he has done for so long, dedicating himself to Dumas, protecting Winters, in the end cannot help him stay out of the power vortex of Genoa City's business world. However, at this moment, the courage of a veteran helps him stand up, turn to a new chapter, whether at Vibrante, or somewhere else, as long as he maintains his dignity and responsibility. When the party ends, each person leaves with their own plans. Lily prepares for the big confrontation at the upcoming event with Dumas. Audra will have to make a decision about Holden, as well as review the human resources strategy to maintain Vibrante's position in the midst of turmoil. Nate is silent and thoughtful, waiting for clearer signs about his feelings and choices. And Damian, before leaving society, quietly texts Holden, advising him to stand his ground, and promises to find a way to help him get a new job if the opportunity arises. He knows that for young people like Holden, failure in life can be a heavy blow, but it can also be the beginning of a journey of true maturity. Genoa City is about to enter a new series of unstable days, when plots, calculations and personal feelings continue to intertwine, testing the courage, intelligence and loyalty of all involved. But no matter how big the storm is, Lily, Damian, Audra, Nate and Holden all understand that only faith and courage can help them overcome everything, protecting the things that each person cherishes most. This year's Newman seemed to be more than just a simple celebration, but also carried with it countless layers of emotions and complex intertwined relationships of the Genoa City family. The sparkling lights, the melodious music mixed with the laughter, but behind each smile, each handshake, were a series of stories, worries, both hopes and insecurities that could not be named. When Nick just stepped into the lobby of the Newman mansion, next to Sharon, the atmosphere immediately attracted attention. Devon, always sensitive to every movement in the upper class, quickly approached, his face mischievously teasing. He leaned over to ask Nick quietly about the reason he escorted Sharon to the party. His eyes could not hide his curiosity, as if he wanted to find a sweet story behind the joint appearance of two people who had been a stormy couple in the past. But Nick just smiled, responding with his usual calm and measured manner, affirming that he and Sharon were now just friends, and emphasizing that Sharon was now close to Phyllis Summers, a reassurance that also sent a subtle message that the old troubles were closed, everything was now just a sincere friendship. Nick's answer impressed Devon even more, especially when thinking back to the time when Nick had been tense with Amanda many times. Devon wondered how Nick had been able to maintain a gentle relationship with most of the women who had passed through his life, despite the hatred, misunderstandings, and storms that had existed between them. Devon felt a certain respect, mixed with curiosity about how Nick had been able to maintain such a gentle relationship, something that seemed simple but few of them could do. The atmosphere of the party became more lively as people began to mingle into small groups, each with their own concerns. Nick and Sharon, after completing the usual greetings, stopped in a corner of the room where Ashley was standing, quietly looking at her loved ones. Sharon, with her usual sincerity, did not hesitate to mention Martin Laurent, who had brought so much trouble to the Newman family. But as soon as that name was mentioned, Ashley's face darkened slightly. The unpleasant memories of Martin and the chaos he caused to the family seemed to still be imprinted somewhere in her mind. Sharon felt Ashley's discomfort, but did not want to make the atmosphere heavier, because she knew that the line between pride and pain was sometimes very fragile. Abby Winters, from a distance, still could not hide her worried gaze towards her mother. She knew that Ashley had shown signs of mental instability in the past, and facing sensitive topics, old pains, made Ashley even more vulnerable. Abby approached her mother, gently suggesting that they talk about returning to therapy, but Ashley just shook her head, postponing any discussion, trying to focus on the party at hand. For Ashley, tonight was not a time to rehash the things that had hurt her, but an opportunity to keep things peaceful, even if only for a short moment. Ashley's fierceness mixed with weakness made Abby both heartbroken and helpless, because she understood the strength and vulnerability of the mother she admired. At the same time, Pietro, the guest of honor, seemed to blend into the atmosphere of the party naturally. He walked through the conversational circles, creating lively conversations, and then stopped next to Nikki, the hostess of the party and the one who had organized everything so perfectly. Nikki smiled gratefully, her eyes shining with trust and affection as she thanked Pietro for helping Claire Newman prepare the party. In Nikki's every gesture, one can clearly see the security of being surrounded by people willing to share and support her, especially in sensitive times like this, when the family's upheavals have never completely stopped. Pietro felt that trust, and he responded with a calm, warm demeanor, making Nikki feel safe and close. He was not only the one who supported Claire in preparing the party, but also acted as a bridge to help the members of the Newman family feel united, despite a series of unresolved conflicts behind. In those brief moments, Pietro became a part of that house, a part of the memories, the dreams, and the new hopes that were forming. Returning to Sharon, although she tried to keep a cheerful face, she couldn't help but feel sad when she realized that she was always the center of speculation and curiosity every time she appeared with Nick. However, her courage and experience helped her maintain a calm attitude, clearly knowing where the boundary was between the past and the present, between things that cannot be changed and her new choices. The closeness between Sharon and Phyllis Summers is also a testament that women can overcome personal conflicts to look towards the future together, a silent message that Sharon brings to every relationship. Nick, although he has learned to face difficult questions, still cannot help but sometimes feel lost in the complicated emotional whirlpool that fate has given him. Looking at Sharon, looking at Phyllis, thinking about the breakups, the reunions, and then separations, Nick wonders if he is living a life with too many regrets. But then, when he saw Sharon smile, when he heard Devon speak words of admiration, he felt comforted again that the past, though full of turmoil, was also an indispensable part of himself, of the path he had traveled. The party continued, with interwoven conversations, loud laughter, but behind were countless silent concerns. Devon kept observing everyone, contemplating the value of forgiveness, about how each person learned to move on despite being hurt. Abby still watched her mother, determined to find a way to protect Ashley from the invisible wounds that were getting deeper and deeper. Pietro became Nikki's support, bringing her a rare feeling of warmth and peace. In that space, everyone had their own aspirations. Nikki wanted to preserve harmony in the family, Sharon wanted a simple, untroubled life. Ashley was tired but still tried hard not to become a burden to her daughter. Nick, though used to being the center of conversation, still secretly wished for something different, a lasting peace, no longer having to return to the old wounds. When the party ended, everyone left in the soft yellow light. Nikki stood at the door, smiling to see each person off, her eyes following each member as if to send unspoken wishes of peace. Claire hugged her tightly, knowing that no matter how many storms there were, this family would always be a place to return to. Abby squeezed her mother's hand, silently promising to never let go, to always be by Ashley's side no matter what happened. Pietro stood silently beside Nikki, watching her loved ones leave, his heart filled with pride for having contributed to such a memorable night. Devon was pensive, thinking about what he had seen, what he had heard, about old lessons, new opportunities, and the power of family love. And in a small corner, Nick looked at Sharon, relieved to know that he could still call her a friend, even though there was a time when he thought everything was gone forever. That was the moment he suddenly realized. Good things do not necessarily have to return to their old form. Sometimes, just keeping a sincere friendship, a mutual respect, is enough for each person to continue on their own path, even though there are many unpredictable obstacles ahead. Nikki's birthday party was therefore not only an event marking her new age, but also a milestone for each member of the Newman family, an opportunity for them to look back, forgive, and hope. All those seemingly small things are what help each person find a foothold to move forward, to rebuild what was lost, and cherish what remains. There are evenings in Genoa City when time seems to stand still, when all relationships, allegiances, all old wounds are given a chance to resurface under the warm but challenging yellow light. Aristotle Dumas's party was not just a social event, but also a sophisticated chessboard where everyone was both a piece and a player. That night, Michael Baldwin knew that he could not avoid Victor Newman forever. All escapes eventually stop, especially when the relationship between two men who had been allies, then rivals, and then blurred the lines between them, had become too complicated to be buried in silence. Michael walked into the banquet hall, his shoulders straight, his face trying to appear indifferent but his hands unconsciously clenching, as if to calm himself against the hidden storms. He was determined to face Victor, not as a former partner, but as a man mature enough to choose his own path. Even though he knew it would be difficult to break the ice between the two, Michael still tried to take the initiative to start a conversation, starting with a seemingly simple question, about Aristotle Dumas's hidden invitation, about the true meaning of today's party. Victor, with the courage of an experienced person, responded with indifferent coldness. He did not want to say anything more to Michael since he chose to leave Newman Enterprises. In Victor, that toughness mixed with hurt made Michael feel smaller and more lost than ever. Many times he tried to rise up, to assert himself outside of Victor's shadow, but then, the moments of confrontation always made him realize that all efforts seemed unable to reach true recognition from this man. Victor's silence was like a cold knife, cutting deeper into Michael's already fragile self-esteem. Lauren Fenmore realized that. With the love and courage of a woman who had experienced many storms, Lauren gently approached Michael, reminding him not to let himself be dragged back into the old orbit by Victor, the orbit where Michael was never himself, always just a dependent link in someone else's plan. Lauren spoke with all her determination and love, that Michael had to be strong, had to stand on his own 2 feet, even though out there was a world full of traps, even when the one who pushed him away was Victor. In that light-filled hall, small groups formed, sharing private stories, implicit calculations. Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins Abbott entered with an attitude of both caution and curiosity. None of them could guess the true motive behind the party hosted by Aristotle Dumas. Nikki, as the powerful woman and symbol of the Newman family, stood beside Victor, her eyes occasionally glancing at the familiar faces mixed with the unfamiliar guests. Together they speculated about Dumas' true intentions, about the moves he was plotting behind the glitz of this lavish party. As the melodious music died down, Claire and Kyle quietly entered the center of the hall, carrying an elaborately decorated birthday cake specially for Nikki. The flickering candles on the cake seemed to make the moment sacred. All eyes were on them, especially on Kyle, who always skillfully used his subtlety to win the hearts of those around him. Kyle slowly walked up, the small velvet box resting in the palm of his hand. He looked at Nikki with all his admiration and sincere affection, starting his speech by talking about the beautiful memories, about the resilience and tolerance that Nikki always had for the next generations. He compared Nikki to the queen on Victor's chess board, a symbol of power, patience, but at the same time a heart that knows how to shelter and protect the whole family. Not stopping at just empty praise, Kyle opened the box, gently handing Nikki a delicately carved bracelet. On each small side of the bracelet were the names of all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren that Nikki had guided and cherished. Nikki was surprised and moved, memories of her family, of the past years, of so many hardships mixed with happiness rushed into her mind. She could not hold back her tears, stepped forward and hugged Kyle, silently sending her thanks into her tight embrace. But that joy only stopped at those sensitive enough to feel it. In a hidden corner, Victor stood there, his eyes cold, showing absolutely no emotion towards Kyle's efforts. Whether it was the wishes or the gift that strongly connected the family. Victor looked at Kyle, Claire, and then at the bracelet as if he saw through everything, not revealing any sign of weakness or acceptance. That rigidity suddenly made the atmosphere heavy. Everyone seemed to feel an unbridgeable gap between Victor and the rest of the extended family.